On December 15, 2023, at a small roadside gas station in Tampa, Florida, dim yellow lights illuminated a tense scene. A large truck blocked the fuel pumps, and the atmosphere grew even more oppressive with the blaring car horns, shouting, and flashing police lights blending together. A disgruntled driver confronted the authorities, claiming he was wronged and refusing to leave as instructed. What sparked this confrontation? And was it just a simple misunderstanding, or was there a hidden truth? The story begins here, in those breathless moments. When the police arrived, all attention immediately focused on the driver, who seemed poised for a simple response, such as bowing his head to admit guilt, or at least pretending to be embarrassed like the protagonists in typical tense situations. But no, he stood there, as calm as a star on stage, even pointing at the person who called the police and confidently declaring, "He's the one who started this. I'm the one being harassed, not the other way around." His words were like a bold statement, causing not only the police but even those around to stop and stare at the scene, wondering if they were witnessing a scene from an intense action movie. It was as if he were playing the role of living in a movie, a B-grade action film, where every situation is exaggerated for dramatic effect. All eyes were on him, but the truth was no one really understood what was going on. The scene was like a heated showdown between two protagonists, full of strong shouts, yet lacking the most important element, an understanding of the cause of the conflict. The entire gas station seemed to turn into a desolate film set, where shouting never stopped, yet no one truly grasped the real content of the conversation. Everyone stood there, like reluctant spectators, wondering how this drama would end, and whether they could escape the strange and confusing feeling of the moment. The police looked at each other awkwardly, their eyes scanning as if searching for the answer to a question they didn't yet know. It was as if they had stepped into a game with an unpredictable outcome. A brief moment of silence passed through the air, and then, instead of resolving the issue quickly and decisively as usual, the situation began to turn into a chaotic drama. The officers, accustomed to tense situations, did not expect to find themselves in a scene that even they struggled to grasp. With each of the driver's words, the situation became harder to control. It wasn't just his statement, but his unwavering attitude and refusal to back down that made the atmosphere boil. Questions, demands, and reactions from both sides began to clash like waves in a violent storm. Instead of arresting the driver and resolving the situation simply as they had done thousands of times before, the police were forced to confront a situation that was anything but straightforward. Every question from the driver, every move from the officers became pieces of a play that was impossible to predict, where the roles of each character were unclear and the ending remained uncertain. It seemed as though everything became more chaotic as shouting, accusations, and commands intertwined, creating a scene of utter disorder. What started as a simple situation requiring the driver to leave had now turned into a dramatic scene, with constantly changing developments making everything more tense than ever. And so, the drama officially entered its chaotic phase, where not only the participants but even the audience couldn't predict what would happen next. The tension at the gas station quickly escalated as the driver, once an ordinary person in the eyes of everyone, suddenly became the star of the stage in this tragicomedy. With an almost scripted demeanor, she decided not only to face the police but also to make everything even more dramatic, like a reality TV show contestant. At this point, her accusations were no longer simply demands for justice, but a larger battle, a noisy dispute with the oppressors. She raised her hand to criticize the police, insisting that she was being treated unfairly, although no one truly understood the specific reasons behind her claim of injustice, even the witnesses. Her tone grew powerful and resolute, as if she were facing a global struggle, not just a small argument at a gas station. She continued to repeat her assertions of injustice, while those around her could only exchange confused glances. And at that moment, she gave herself a special role, a victim of the system. No longer just a driver, she became a symbol of the oppressed, though no one really understood what oppression she was referring to. For her, the issue wasn't just being asked to leave, it was a personal battle with the system, something vague and vast that she believed was cornering her. With each statement, she further cemented her role in this drama. From a person being asked to leave, she transformed into a fighter for personal rights, with all the assertiveness of an actor on a big stage. The police stood there, seemingly confused, not knowing how to respond to this performance. Her accusations had no concrete evidence but carried the weight of a bold declaration, making the atmosphere even more tense. And no matter how strange her accusations were, she had successfully made herself the center of attention, not just at the gas station but also in the eyes of those witnessing this drama. But the story didn't end there. Instead of accepting the reality, the driver continued to prove that she wasn't someone easily subdued by any authority. In an unexpectedly determined display, she demanded to meet with a superior immediately. "I want to see a sergeant right now." Her voice was strong and authoritative, as if she were in a decisive debate, not at a gas station, but in an important court hearing. And as if that weren't enough, she also demanded a police report to prove her complete innocence and that she was being wronged. The area suddenly fell silent, and those witnessing the event, from customers pumping gas to store employees, couldn't help but be amazed. At this moment, it's likely that many people standing around are wondering, does she think she's in a mobile court? Her demands not only reflect frustration but also seem to place her in the position of a leader, issuing orders and expecting everything to go her way. Unafraid and unabashed, she appears to believe she has the right to demand special conditions, a sergeant to handle the issue, a report to validate her righteousness. To her, this is not just a small dispute but a major battle that could alter the entire system. Her assertiveness makes the atmosphere even more tense, as if she intends to turn this situation into a protest or a serious political negotiation. Witnesses can't help but laugh, wondering whether she's confusing a gas station with a courtroom or if she truly believes that she can change everything with a few forceful demands. The seriousness of her requests makes the situation feel absurd, as if every step she takes is part of a play where she is the leading lady, and no one can deny this role. While the police try to maintain composure and control the situation, the driver has no intention of stopping and, instead, continues to perform with more enthusiasm than ever. She loudly declares that her rights are being ruthlessly trampled, as if she is engaged in a tough legal battle rather than just dealing with a simple situation at the gas station. Each of her words seems like a declaration of war against the outside world, making her more determined and forceful by the moment. As a result, what could have been resolved in a few minutes quickly turns into an endless dialogue. Instead of leading everything toward a reasonable solution, it seems to spiral into an endless loop of accusations and demands. Everyone, from the police to the onlookers, begins to feel as if they are part of a sitcom, not the light-hearted kind with funny situations, but a dreadful one where everyone talks but no one listens. The driver's questions, criticisms, and demands lead to no understanding, only creating a chaotic and confusing atmosphere. The crowd around, originally with the simple goal of filling up their tanks and continuing their work, has now become unwilling spectators of a real-life comedy. Those waiting, unsure whether to be worried or to laugh at this bizarre situation, are all bewildered by an unbelievable scene. As everyone watches intently, the situation shows no sign of resolving but only grows more disorganized, like a play where the main character, the driver, does everything possible to extend the attention of the audience. Thus, instead of an emergency that needs to be resolved, everything turns into a free comedy show, where the absurdities and messiness of real life are clearly exposed. When the police finally decide to stop playing cat and mouse and issue a trespassing warning, many might think the situation is about to end and everything will return to normal. But no, that's just the beginning of the next chapter in this tragicomedy. The driver, with unwavering determination and a spirit as if she's engaged in a significant legal debate, refuses to admit defeat and takes the stage again. With the energy of a self-appointed lawyer, she begins to present unconvincing yet convincing arguments to herself, as if she were participating in a fierce legal battle. Her voice rings with challenge, showing no sign of concession. It seems she believes that every word she says has the power to change the legal system. This move is not the typical response of someone being handled, but that of someone who has just discovered that their coffee is lacking sugar, full of dissatisfaction and a sense of injustice. She expresses her displeasure vehemently, as if being asked to leave or receiving a trespassing warning is an unforgivable insult. Her accusations shoot out like a series of relentless bullets, and the target is not truth or justice but simply to assert her power and personal ego. From the perspective of the onlookers, it's clear that the driver is turning every moment of confrontation with the police into an opportunity to express violated rights, as if she were in a courtroom, where all eyes are on her and every word is part of an indispensable defense. So, instead of the situation ending with a simple warning, everything becomes an endless confrontation. The driver, with stubbornness and determination that cannot be swayed, continues to strongly oppose, making the witnesses feel as if they are watching a performance where the main character cannot stop her journey, even if it's just in the middle of a gas station. She not only questions the police's authority but also adopts an attitude as if she were at the center of a tense legal debate, demanding they explain every move they make in detail, like participating in a formal legal seminar. She confidently says, "Who gave you the right to do this?" A question that not only demands an answer but also carries a challenge, as if she is placing herself on equal footing with the law enforcement. This is not a simple question but a declaration of personal power, as if she's demanding that the police provide a reasonable and transparent explanation for every action they take. Her words, strong and uncompromising, leave witnesses amazed, wondering if they are standing in the middle of a tense dialogue from a TV drama. Indeed, the people around begin to feel as if they are witnessing a scene from a movie, where every line of dialogue is carefully crafted, and the characters never settle for normal situations, but elevate everything to a higher level of importance, as if it were a grand dispute. In fact, it seems the onlookers, instead of feeling exhausted or annoyed, are enjoying the tense drama, a showdown between the main character and the supporting characters, the police. And of course, when the driver demands an explanation for the police's actions, as if they were participants in a day-long legal seminar, the repeated questions are not merely asking why she is being treated this way. If you look closely, you can see that her words are a self-appointed judge of the situation, as if she wants to push the police into a defensive position, demanding they explain every move they make, as if she were participating in a trial where every witness and prosecutor must answer her questions, the only one who can judge and deliver a verdict. In this context, the people around, who were initially just ordinary folks stopping to refuel, seem to no longer care about whether they can complete their tasks. They have now become unwitting spectators of a play as dramatic as any, where the driver is not just seeking justice but is constructing an entirely different role for herself, one where she is the only person in the world with the right to criticize and question what's happening around her. The true climax of this real-life drama occurs when the driver goes beyond merely arguing about her rights and passionately declares that she was treated brutally while being arrested. Her tone of outrage is no different from a seasoned actor in a tragedy, as she describes in detail being handcuffed, as though these actions were unforgivable in the eyes of the public. Each of her words is elevated to an important event. "They ripped my headphones off without a care." This accusation is not just a common grievance but an international claim, making her a victim of an unfair world. But it doesn't stop there. The driver seems to want to add even more drama to her plague by demanding that her personal belongings, everything from her phone to her backpack, be handled with extreme care and respect, as though she were checking in luggage at a five-star hotel rather than being in temporary detention. She insists that everything must be stored safely, with no room for error. These are not ordinary items that anyone might have, but precious possessions of a star being detained, deserving to be treated with caution and courtesy. Her demands are akin to setting top-tier customer service standards, with undeniable seriousness. In her mind, everything must be perfect, with no mistake, no matter how small, because she believes she deserves to be treated that way. Her words seem increasingly contradictory as she demands everything be handled properly, while she is the one clashing with the police. Strangely, she wants everything to proceed with maximum respect, as though she is not in a tense legal situation but a customer requesting service at a luxurious venue. The people around, observing this, can't help but be stunned by the unrealistic nature of her demands. But perhaps that's what makes the scene interesting and humorous. A person being arrested trying to maintain their power and dignity, self-styling as a VIP in an intense and unreal confrontation. With every word, every demand, The driver continues to elevate her play, making those around her feel as though they are watching a comedy, not a real-life situation. Perhaps in her eyes, asking for her personal belongings to be handled properly isn't absurd. It is an assertion of her ultimate power in a world where she always feels wronged. The onlookers can only quietly shake their heads, while the police, with weary expressions of people who've just fought through an endless play, try to complete their work without breaking into laughter. When it comes to the body search, the drama intensifies. The driver immediately states her stance: "Only women are allowed to search me," as though making a special request at a fine dining restaurant. The police, clearly wanting to avoid further complications, immediately call for a female officer to the scene. But instead of solving the issue, the appearance of the female officer opens a new chapter in the dispute. The female officer, with remarkable patience, explains, "Actually, a male officer can still conduct the search." The driver, hearing this, switches to top-tier defense mode, insisting that things have gone too far and that her personal rights are being trampled mercilessly. She even cleverly weaves in an emotional speech about being mistreated and mishandled, almost bringing the crowd to applaud for the heartfelt performance. As the female officer begins the search, the driver continues to protest vigorously, repeatedly emphasizing, "I have nothing, so why do I need to be searched again?" It's as though she's competing in a talent show, where each action must be evaluated down to the finest detail. While the police try to keep things under control, the story gradually transforms into a classic situational comedy, where every character seems to be lost in a convoluted script, unsure how to bring the scene to a close. As things are getting tense, the debate over the driver's phone turns the scene into a lively comedy. With the authority of a CEO running a meeting, she confidently demands, "Give my phone to my colleague." But the police, with the demeanor of those who are all too familiar with this script, simply respond, "The phone will remain in your property at the detention center." The driver immediately switches to strong opposition mode, criticizing how the police are handling her personal belongings. Do you know how to take care of a phone? Or do you just confiscate and toss it somewhere? The question is asked with the tone of someone interviewing candidates for an asset management position. Not stopping there, she points out that the process is not only unclear but also downright brutal. The police refusal to hand her phone over to her colleague is treated as a serious crime, and she doesn't forget to add some drama. "My family is trying to call me, and they don't know where I am, and you guys are holding my phone? How heartless!" The unwilling audience, the people waiting to refuel, must now feel like they are watching a dramatic TV episode where every line from the main character is delivered with all their heart. And the police? They remain silent, trying to finish the performance as quickly as possible, knowing this is just one act in a long-running play. When it comes to explaining the legal procedure, the female officer patiently, like a model teacher, tries to make the stubborn student understand. "You will undergo a medical examination, then wait to meet the judge via Zoom, possibly later today," she explains in a gentle tone, as if guiding a lost traveler. But the driver was not easily convinced. "Zoom? Really? I'm being arrested, and you want me to attend an online meeting? Is this a detention center or a company meeting?" She reacted as if she had just been invited to an unwanted seminar. Not only was she confused, but she also complained that this process, which sounded so simple, was absurdly complicated. "It sounds as easy as ordering a pizza, but in reality, it's like decoding an ancient recipe," she protested, as though she were the victim of some elaborate conspiracy. The female officer remained calm and continued to explain that meeting the judge and undergoing the trial were just the first steps. But for the driver, this was nothing short of an endless adventure. She concluded with a complaint: "This system is a complete mess. Why does it have to be so complicated?" Turning the entire situation into a scathing critique of how the legal system operates. While the police tried to explain clearly, the driver acted like an unwilling audience member in a boring lecture, yawning while waving a protest flag. It was a situation so humorous that, if there were an Oscar for the most dramatic performance, the driver would certainly be nominated. As the scene reached its conclusion, the driver still refused to give up, continuing to make creative accusations. "Now you're just performing for the camera, right? You're all just amateur actors," she said, as though critiquing a terrible play with herself as the unwilling audience. With dissatisfaction, she made it clear that everything was part of a grand conspiracy to bring her down. "Why was I arrested? Just because I dared to defend my rights?" She continued to argue, her tone shifting to stage rhetoric. She was then officially informed about the charges: resisting a law enforcement officer without violence and property damage. But for her, these words were no different than dialogue from a comedy. "Resisting without violence? Do you even hear how ridiculous that sounds?" she retorted, as though demanding a better explanation from the scriptwriters of her life's play. Finally, the formal closing statement: innocent until proven guilty. But instead of feeling reassured, she sarcastically laughed. "Oh, great. So, I'll be cleared right away, right?" Turning the whole situation into a satirical comedy about how society operates. The police sighed, trying to remain calm, while the driver continued her excellent performance as the oppressed individual. If there were an award for outstanding performance in the legal field, she would surely be the top contender. In the end, this story was not just a confrontation between a stubborn driver and police officers, but a lesson in behavior and communication in tense situations. While the driver expressed her dissatisfaction and impatience, the police tried to maintain order and patiently explain the legal process, although at times it seemed they didn't fully understand how the public felt. The lesson here is the importance of staying calm and respectful when facing tense situations, even when one feels unfairly treated. At the same time, clear and transparent communication is key to avoiding misunderstandings and reducing negative reactions. And ultimately, in every situation, both parties need to remember that maintaining a reasonable and respectful dialogue will make everything easier, rather than turning it into a stressful comedy.